Hey Greg, I just wanted to say, I mean, looking at your channel seems to be an ardent, acute litany of trying to force feed secondary logic, or what we'll say is linguistics, into this particular framework, the way in which you would like to put brackets around items of discourse in order to yield one particular idea. And I said that I will give you that read, I will give you over that read entire if, we assume that the brackets are placed. I agree that the one can place the brackets where you place the brackets, but you don't have to place the brackets there, and this will lead to will expound on different functions of the sentence than what you've expounded on. So if we look at your number one, I see Wittgenstein quotes you offered as part of my argument. Okay, a part of the last part of my Wittgenstein quote is the brackets quote. It's like, which brackets are you going to pay attention to? Where are you going to place them? That is not part of your argument, and I hopefully show why here. Two, the criteria for the set of non-red things is that the proposition, my car is not red, is true. I.e., of course, lack of meaning. When we say what something is not, we simply are not saying what is. Okay, now when you say my car is not red, where you place the brackets, we'll jump to that, back to two here in just a moment. Outside the propositional logic, what meaning do you have for not? Does it talk about what that thing is to say what it isn't? Well, that's a great question, and I already answered in the case in which you're framing them, no, it does not tell it. In another case, I would say that it does tell what it is, and the question, though, let me back up on this one for number three. Okay, you're asking us what outside of the propositions of logic, what meaning do we have for the word not? And so you're asking us to say propositions of logic not, and I can't find any. Not is functions as a negation. It's recursive, but my question to you is, imagine a language that predates our language where we have a focus or a formalization of the word not. For example, I'm going to show you this particular language that has, as far as I know, no not propositions in it, right? It has things like circles that might be considered sets. It has definite symbols. It has birds. It has motifs. It has delineations. But to say that it's not a language and to say that it has nots can both be true. So I'm asking you now, Greg, to imagine a language that does not chase after truth, but does not, I won't say does not have knots, but where knots are unfound, they're inadmissible. Imagine a language where we use the words, where we don't have the operator not. So one could say, this lacks this. This is absent of that. This is missing, if you will. And that's how the language functions. It functions positively without a negative recursive set. And so that's what I'll ask you to do. As far as let's go ahead and kick to number four. So in other words, I'm asking you to reframe or broaden the scope in which you're talking about the operator, because our language already has the operator, but not all languages are recursive. Not all languages have this formalization of logic within them. So then we come up to what you say up above, and this will be back to number two. When we say dospook is not Greg, this is true, but true about what dospook is not. And then you go on to say, you bracket it this way. It does not say dospook is not Greg, or else what you've agreed upon would fall apart, because it would be pointing to not Greg's. It would be pointing outward to nothing particular. And so then you reframe it and you say, so it is saying dospook is not Greg. Now, since Greg is a thing, the subject of what dospook is not what dospook is. Okay, and then you go into atheism. But I'm going to say, let's just frame it this way. Dospook and Greg, and let's say the operator is the word is. Okay, not frame, that's the operator. Now now I'm Mike, dospook is Mike, so dospook is not Greg. Okay, so is not is for formal interpretation, and this read, so I granted you your read, but this read is equivalence with the line through it. It is not. Okay, now back to the red car. When you go up a little bit more and you read your statements, when I say my car is not red, I'm using propositional logic, and I'll say that the let's see, when I say my car is a member of the set of things non-red. See, now you'll break it down into nons and nots, where you don't necessarily have to, because when I say the rose is red, and I go red, and I put it in brackets, and I go rose, and I put it in brackets, the is not equivalent to an equivalent sign. So is the equivalence, is in this case not a statement of equivalence. You could say it's an element, right? And so to say that when I say my car is not red, you could say, well, if we're going to consider red as an element of cars, then we could draw a line through the equivalent sign here and separate this differently than how it is you're trying to force us to see the operation. So we make sets of propositions about members of sets, but those statements are formal in logic and not set theory. Now, I'm going to bring this up. If somebody, imagine somebody walks in and they see a bust of Beethoven. And the bust of Beethoven, they go up and they ask the curator, where are the arms on this? They would be mistaken. That's kind of like how you're reading things, right? Because it's a complete statue. It's not missing anything. It's not lacking anything. So they take that framework, they walk down the hall of the museum, and they come to the Venus de Milo. Now, at the Venus de Milo, it would be incorrect to say that the statue is complete as it is. At this point, it would be okay to say the statue lacks arms. The statue is missing arms, not putting in a not operator. So my next challenge to you is to discuss, first of all, do you see a perceptual difference of where someone approaching a bust could wrongly see but identify with the bust as lacking arms, and then to see a contextual background, a function, if you will, in the background, a shadow of sense that lays on that, and talk to me about how that is different than somebody coming across the Venus de Milo and speaking, well, the Venus de Milo lacks arms. Well, how do we know? Well, we know this because all these other Greek statues have this, and the advent of the bust in sculpture is later on. So I'm going to formulate this, that language started out as not having not operators, or not is it's vacant. I could read what it is you're saying with, when I say my car is not red, I'm using propositional logic. Okay, you're using propositional logic. I could read that in a narrative, and to make sense of it, I would say I'm using logic. I'm not employing logic, I'm just reading a narrative, right? And so there's a difference between language in its robust sense, where you're just apprehending the language, and then there are attributes of the recursion that occurs with the not. But the is the function, and where you framed it for set theory is not by necessity. And that's where I'm coming from. It's not by necessity, it's a read that you've placed on it.